This video will be another continuation of classes in F#, and we're going to look at static members today. Static members are a good way of being able to access members outside of a class that don't depend on the instance itself. We're going to see what that means in just a second, and I assume that you're somewhat familiar with static members from other languages like C#, for example. So if we create a class, we're going to call this rectangle, and if you're unfamiliar with how to create a class, please have a look at my introductory class video. Nevertheless, we have a rectangle like this, and rather than saying member something something, we would actually put static before here. So the static keyword comes first, like that, static member, and then area, for example. And I'm going to make this as a function, so we're going to provide a parameter here called width, like so, and that's going to be a float, and after that we're going to provide height, like that. I'm also going to let that be a float. Okay, and then this would return the width times the height, like that. Simple enough. One thing to note here is here I didn't put something like that dot area. I don't need to put anything like that. As a matter of fact, I get a syntax error if I try to put something and then dot area here. For static members in F#, you don't put anything before the declaration of the static member. So static member area, that's going to be sufficient, and we're going to be able to access that from outside of the class. So let's try and do that now. Before, you might have remembered that we initialized the class and then accessed the member variables from that particular instance. But since this is a static member, we can do it slightly differently. So print fn like this, and then let's say that the rectangle has area, and here we'll put this in parentheses just to make it understandable to F#, rectangle dot area, and you can see here we're not using a particular instance of rectangle, but rather we're using the class name itself. So we say rectangle dot area, and if you're familiar with C#, this will not be a surprise to you. Whenever we have static members, you would reference the class as opposed to an instance of the class, and then we would provide our parameters. So let's say 5 and 3, like that. Okay, we save this and then we can execute. So note that throughout the course of this entire program, we never initialize an instance of this class. We could do that. So even though this has a static member, you can still initialize the class if you wanted to, but in order to access the static members, you don't have to do an initialization. So if we let this finish here, we're going to see that the rectangle has area 15, and if we multiply 5 by 3, we're going to get 15. So everything works the way it's supposed to. That's how you create a class with a static member in F#.